The bite didn't hurt the way I thought it would. I'd imagined teeth like shears, a clean tearing, something cinematic. What happened instead was smaller, duller, almost apologetic. A pressure on the soft place between my thumb and wrist, then warmth. Then the wet give of skin surrendering to something that didn't know it was surrendering. The man who bit me wore a delivery uniform. His name tag said Raymond. His eyes were the color of wet cement, and they weren't looking at me. They were looking through the place I happened to be standing. I remember the exact shape of my last normal thought. It was, I left the stove on. Not, I'm going to die. Not, please God. Just the stove, the small blue halo of gas under the kettle I'd started before going down to the lobby to see what the shouting was about. I'd turned it off, I was almost certain. But the brain under pressure reaches for the smallest possible worry, something it can still hold. And I held that kettle like a rosary while Raymond, the delivery man, pressed his mouth into the fat of my hand and made a sound I will never have words for. Then he let go. He didn't run. He shuffled past me toward the glass doors of the building, and his shoulder brushed mine on the way out. And that touch was more intimate than the bite. Like he'd forgotten I existed the second I stopped being food. I stood there with my hand dripping onto the lobby tile. The concierge was gone. The security guard was gone. The morning had been a normal morning, and now it wasn't. And the space between the two had been about 40 seconds long. I took the stairs back up to my apartment. 7 flights. I remember counting, because counting was still something I could do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. By the landing of the 5th, I could feel my heartbeat in my eyes. By the 7th, I was hot in a way that had nothing to do with exertion, a fever pouring up from inside the bones themselves. And I understood in a small and private way that I was not going to be fine. I called Diana first, before the paramedics, before 911, before anyone. That's a thing I'd like to be able to defend and can't. "Baby, where are you?" I said, and my voice came out of a throat that was already starting to feel borrowed. "Tell me where you are right now." She was in her car. She said the word bridge and the word traffic, and then she said my name twice, the second time sharper than the first, because she could hear what I was trying not to say. "I got bit," I told her. "Don't come home. Do you hear me? Don't come here." There was a silence on her end. Cars honking, a radio I could half make out. A man reading bulletins with a voice that had started the day as news and was becoming something else. And then Diana said, very quietly, "I'm coming." "Don't." "I'm coming." "Diana, listen to me." "I'm already coming," she said. And the line did that thing where you can hear someone stop breathing in order to steady themselves. "Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She said 20. It was the last clean number I would ever hear her say. I sat down on the kitchen floor with my back against the dishwasher and watched my hand. The bite was turning the color of spoiled plums. There was a thin, dark line moving up from the wound along the inside of my wrist, and I knew, the way you know a bad cough is going to go to your chest, that the line was going to keep going. Up the forearm, up the shoulder, into the brain where I lived. The weird part, the part I still can't explain in the right order, is that even as the fever went incandescent, I stayed. I was still there. I could still feel the cold of the kitchen tile through my jeans, still hear the refrigerator hum, still remember what Diana had worn to dinner the night before, that soft gray thing with the frayed left cuff she kept meaning to fix. I thought, if I hold on to these things, maybe that's what it is to stay human. Maybe consciousness is just a list of small, true facts you refuse to let go of. I was wrong. But it was a lovely error to make. The first sign that my body was no longer mine came in my jaw. My teeth started doing a slow clicking, a soft, metronomic press that I hadn't asked for and couldn't stop. I tried to open my mouth, and my mouth opened at a pace I didn't set. It was like someone else had learned to drive and was practicing on me. Then my right hand, the bitten one, lifted itself off my thigh. I watched it rise. It didn't tremble. It didn't drift. It simply stood up, the way a dog stands up when it's heard something at the door. The fingers curled and uncurled. The thumb ticked against the middle knuckle in a slow test. And I thought, with a clarity that felt obscene given what was happening, oh, this is how it starts. You lose a finger first, then the hand, then the rest. My phone rang on the counter above me, Diana's name on the screen. I watched it ring. The hand that was no longer mine did not reach for it. My other hand, the one still listening to me for now, reached up, fumbled, got the phone to the floor. I answered by pressing my face against it. "I'm 3 blocks away," she said. "Talk to me." "Diana," I said, and my own name for her came out of my mouth the way a last sip comes out of a glass. "Something's wrong." "I know something's wrong. I'm coming, just—" "No. Something's wrong in here. I can't—" I looked at the hand that wasn't mine. It was drumming softly against the dishwasher. "Listen, if I don't answer the door, if I sound weird, don't come in. Promise me." "Stop." "Promise me, Diana." "I'm not promising you that. I'm not promising you anything. You shut up and you breathe and you wait for me." She hung up. Or the call dropped. I couldn't tell. The phone was on the floor and my face was on the floor, and my teeth were clicking like a telegraph I didn't know how to read. Something happened then that I have gone over in my head maybe 1,000 times since, trying to locate the precise instant when I became the thing I became. I don't think there was one. I think what happened was that a second self climbed in through the window of the fever and sat down beside me at the kitchen table of my skull. And we looked at each other, and it was stronger than I was, and it knew it. It didn't want to hurt me. It didn't want anything I'd recognize as wanting. It just had a purpose, and I was in the way of that purpose. And it began, patiently, to push. The pushing was the strangest part. It wasn't violent. It wasn't loud. It was like a tide coming in on a floor you'd thought was high ground. Water first at the baseboards, then the chair legs, then your ankles. Then, before you understood the geometry of what was happening, your chest. My own body became a room I could see into but not walk through. My eyes still worked. I was looking out of them, but my eyelids were being operated by someone else, and when I tried to blink, I had to wait for permission, and permission came on a schedule I hadn't set. I tried to get up. I tried to lift my hips off the floor and stand. The intention left my brain. It went down my spine. It reached my legs, and there it was absorbed, like rain into sand, and nothing happened. My legs did not move. They lay there, warm and heavy, and not mine. Panic did something interesting. It didn't fire my muscles the way panic is supposed to. It just rang. A bell in a deep cave, reverberating in a body that no longer knew how to receive the signal. I screamed, and no sound came out. I screamed again, and this time a sound did come out, but it wasn't my sound. It was low and flat and soft, more like a man exhaling through a wet cloth. And the thing that had climbed into my head approved of it. The front door buzzer went off. She'd gotten to the building. She was downstairs. She was buzzing up, and if no one answered, she was going to come up anyway, because she knew my neighbor, Mrs. Ardell, on the third floor, and Mrs. Ardell would let her in. Because Mrs. Ardell loved Diana the way old women love young women who take the time to say hello properly. I sat there on the kitchen floor and tried to remember how to stand, as if standing were a foreign language I'd once been fluent in. My body stood up. It was worse than I can tell you. It wasn't my effort. It wasn't even a sensation of being lifted. One moment I was on the floor, the next I was vertical, and there had been no in-between, no gathering, no push. My thighs had extended, my knees had locked, my spine had stacked itself, and I, the thing inside, had been a passenger along for the ride. I tried to look down at my feet, and my head didn't turn. I tried to curl my fingers into a fist, and my fingers stayed relaxed at my sides, slack and waiting. Then my body began to walk. It walked toward the apartment door. I understood, in a way I do not have the language for, what it was walking toward. Not Diana. Not yet. Diana was a stranger to it. What it was walking toward was the sound. Footsteps in the hallway outside, a neighbor moving, a delivery being dropped on a mat, anything with a pulse. The thing inside me didn't know who lived where. It knew what lived where, and it was tired of being alone in a quiet room. I screamed at it. From inside, I screamed every word I knew. I called it by every name I could think of. I swore at it. I begged it. I said Diana's name over and over like a password. Like the password would make the thing remember what my body had been for. It didn't. It walked. It put one foot in front of the other with a patience I'd never had when I'd been the one walking. It didn't rush. It didn't stumble. It walked the way a man walks in a grocery store who has all afternoon. My hand, the bitten one, the one that had stopped being mine first, reached the doorknob. It turned the knob. The door opened. And my body stepped out into the corridor of the building I'd lived in for 4 years. And I watched myself pass the fake ficus on the landing, and I thought, I never liked that plant. I never liked that plant. And not being able to tell anyone I never liked that plant was, for one absurd second, the worst thing that had ever happened to me. There was a man at the end of the hallway. I didn't know him. A visitor, maybe. Or a new tenant I hadn't met. He was standing with his back to me, fumbling with a key ring. My body began to move faster. I didn't feel my legs work harder. I felt my center of gravity change, a tilt forward, as if the hunger, if hunger is the right word, and I don't think it is, had taken up residence in the front of my chest and was pulling me along by it. I tried to stop. I tried so hard I thought I would split. I imagined standing still. I pictured my feet as concrete. I remembered the exact sensation of wet cement from when I was 8 and my father had let me press my palm into the sidewalk outside our house. I held that memory in the front of my mind like a shield, and my feet kept moving, and the memory broke like glass against them. The man turned. He saw me. His eyes went wide. He said, "Oh," or maybe, "Ah," some small, startled syllable that the throat makes before the brain has caught up. He backed against the wall, one hand going up. The keyring fell out of his other hand and rang against the tile. My body was on him before I could finish remembering the word stop. What I'm about to describe is the part I've tried, many times, to edit out of my own memory. The body does. I do not. There is no we. That's important. I was not complicit. I want that said, into the void where nothing is listening. Because something in me still needs to say it, even now. My teeth, mine, I'd had them cleaned in January. I'd had a small chip repaired on the left incisor in the spring. They were my teeth. Found the side of his throat. The warmth that met them was the most intimate sensation I have ever experienced, and I experienced it against my will, and I experienced it with full fidelity. Every nuance of heat and texture and the metallic rush that follows, and there was no part of me that was spared. The body devoured. The mind screamed. They were happening in the same room. They were not happening to the same person. I knew that, because the body was happy, and I was not. The body hummed with a quiet, almost sleepy satisfaction, a pleasure so primal and so foreign that I have to believe, in order to go on believing anything, that it was not mine. When it was done, the man on the floor twitched and stopped twitching. My body straightened up. It looked down at him with my eyes, and I, through those eyes, saw what my body saw. And what my body saw was not a person. It was a shape that had finished being useful. It was a thing to leave behind. I saw his face. He had a small scar above his lip, shaped like a comma, and a thin gold chain around his neck that had caught briefly on my teeth. And I wanted to kneel, and I could not kneel. And the body walked away while I memorized his face in the moving frame of a window I could not open. I want to tell you I cried. The body did not cry. There was moisture on my face, but it wasn't tears. Some of it belonged to the man in the hallway. I want to tell you I prayed. I don't know if what I did counts as prayer. I think I just repeated a name. Diana. 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 Like if I said it enough, the body would hear me through the thick wall between us and remember that there was a woman coming up the stairs, and that she was the reason I had ever wanted to come home at all. The body walked to the stairwell. It did not take the elevator. Something in the infection understood elevators, or rather, understood the absence of prey in them. The body wanted open spaces, moving bodies, sound. The stairwell offered descending footsteps. It took the stairs. On the 4th floor landing, I passed Mrs. Ardell. She was in her bathrobe. She had her little brown dog, Peanut, on a leash, and Peanut had the rigid stance of an animal who has just understood something his person has not. Mrs. Ardell said, "Oh, honey." And then her mouth did something else, because the next second she was looking at my face and my mouth and the wet places on the front of my shirt. Peanut barked, sharp, high, the kind of bark a small dog makes when it's decided to die bravely. Mrs. Ardell was 73. She was kind. She was the reason I knew how to make pierogi. She had 3 grandchildren. One of them was named after a grandfather I never met. I screamed inside my body for my body to turn around, to go up the stairs, to go anywhere else. My body did not turn around. Peanut saved her. I didn't. Peanut lunged the full length of his leash, a 5-pound animal becoming for a moment the entire sum of courage in the building, and my body, which was not interested in him, still flinched, because the infection did not discriminate between sounds. In the half-second that the small dog bought her, Mrs. Ardell stumbled back into her apartment and slammed the door. I heard the chain. I heard the deadbolt. I heard her voice, high and broken, through the wood, calling for a Jesus I hoped was listening, because I wasn't there anymore. The body did not attack the door. It considered it. Then it continued down. Stairs didn't hold its attention long. Moving prey did. I kept the picture of Peanut in my head on the way down. The absurdity of a terrier being braver than a man. The fact that, in my last clear act as a person, I had not saved Mrs. Ardell. A dog had. I wanted that noted. If anything of me survives this, I want that on the record. The lobby was worse than I'd left it. There were 3 bodies on the floor that hadn't been there an hour ago. There was a woman in a yellow coat pressed into the corner by the mailboxes, very still, her hand over her mouth. The body didn't notice her. The body noticed the door. Beyond the door, the street. Beyond the street, motion, sound, scent. The full chorus of a city that was beginning to understand what it was losing. The body pushed through the lobby doors. I went with it, because I had no choice. The street was a grammar I no longer understood. Cars were stopped in the middle of the avenue with their doors open. There was a woman screaming in an apartment 4 stories up, and her scream had a pattern to it, a rhythm of breath that told me she had been screaming for a long time already. Somewhere a car alarm was going. A man in a suit was running east. A delivery bike was on its side with the wheels still spinning. I saw all of this as a human. My body saw it as geography. My eyes, I should say now that my eyes changed. Not the color, or not that I could tell from inside. What changed was how they read. Light stopped being beautiful. Light was only useful insofar as it separated moving from not moving. Shadows that would have seemed lovely to me an hour ago, the slant of late morning down a brick face, were now just noise, something the brain had to skip past to find the thing with a pulse. And pulses. Pulses I could see. I swear to you. I don't know what my eyes were doing that human eyes don't, but I could see pulses. The woman in the yellow coat, through the glass of the lobby door behind me, had a pulse that glowed in the hollow of her throat like a soft coal. The man running east had one that hammered at his temple. It wasn't light exactly. It was a knowledge that arrived through my eyes. Every pulse was a bell. My body walked toward the loudest. The loudest pulse was 20 yards up the block, on a stoop, a teenager with earbuds in. He hadn't realized. He was looking at his phone. He had the slouch of a boy who had been told twice that day to stand up straight and had refused on principle. His pulse beat in the soft, vulnerable place behind his ear, where the hair was still boy hair, fine and short. I screamed in my own head. I screamed loud enough that if screaming could have done anything, I would have blown out the inside of my own skull to save him. The body kept walking. A car horn blew. Long. A woman leaned out of a window of a sedan a few yards farther up the block. She yelled something at the boy. She yelled again. The boy looked up, saw me, saw what I was, and threw himself sideways off the stoop so fast one of his earbuds stayed behind, swinging on its cord from the door handle like a tiny, confused planet. The woman in the car was Diana. I don't know what to tell you about the moment I recognized her. It wasn't a thought. It was a shock, an electrical event that passed through every cell of me at once, and it was the first thing in an hour that was bigger than the thing inside my body. I felt my consciousness, if consciousness is even the right word for what I still had, spike in a way that briefly interfered with the hunger. My body stopped walking. Just for a second. Just for long enough that I could, maybe for the first time, understand that the body could be surprised. Diana didn't recognize me. Or she did and couldn't afford to. She screamed at the boy to run, and she threw her car into reverse, and she swung the door open on her side and yelled, at me, at a monster, the sentence she had used 100,000 times in the last 3 years of our life together. "Get in the car, baby!" Baby. She called me baby. Because she had seen my face before she had seen the rest of me. Because my face, even with what it had become, was still mine in some cartography her eyes could read. Because love is a form of recognition that refuses to update on time. Baby. She said it the way you might say it across a grocery aisle. "Get in the car, baby." And my body, which had been slowing, resumed walking. I tried. Please understand me when I say this. I tried with everything I had ever been to make the body stop. I tried to push the body's face toward her so she could see, clearly, what the face had become. I tried to make the body fall. I tried to make the body bite itself, hard, in the cheek, the tongue, anywhere that would scare her back into her car. The body flickered. Something in the infection registered my effort. My right shoulder twitched in a way it hadn't been ordered to twitch. My left foot caught, briefly, on a crack in the sidewalk my body would normally have corrected around. I was doing something. I wasn't doing enough. Diana got out of the car. "Oh no," she said, softly, and I can still hear the exact pitch of those two syllables. Oh, no. Not loud, not theatrical. The quiet sound a person makes when the world rearranges itself in front of them and cannot be rearranged back. Oh no. Oh no, no. She was carrying a baseball bat. My baseball bat. The aluminum one that lived in the hall closet of our apartment, and that we had joked about a dozen times without ever meaning to need. She had stopped at our place first. Of course she had. She'd come up, found the door open, found what was inside, and I don't know what she saw in our kitchen, on our kitchen floor. What mess my body had left behind, but whatever it was what made her bring the bat down the stairs. She didn't raise it yet. She held it low, along her leg, like it embarrassed her. "Stop," she said. "Stop right there." My body didn't stop. "Please," she said. My body didn't stop. The thing in me, the rider, the passenger, whatever I should call it, was interested in her now. It wasn't love. It wasn't recognition. It was interest in the sense a fire is interested in paper. She was close. She was warm. She was alone. And the thing in me had priorities. My hands lifted at my sides. Diana raised the bat. I think what saved us both, for another 15 seconds, was that the boy from the stoop had not run far. He'd crouched behind a mailbox at the end of the block, and from there he threw a shoe. I don't know why a shoe. He must have pulled it off as he ran. He threw it sidearm, with the panicked precision of a teenager who had spent his life learning to aim things he wasn't supposed to aim. The shoe hit the side of a parked van. The van clanged. The body in me snapped toward the sound. In the seconds the sound bought us, Diana moved. Not at me. Around. She put the open door of her car between us, and she yelled something at the boy. And the boy yelled something back, and then she did something I still can't fully process. She slammed the heel of her palm into the car horn and held it there. She laid on that horn for a full 10 seconds, a solid wall of sound, and every head on the street turned. And my head turned with them. And the thing in me could not choose which bell to chase, because every bell was ringing at the same volume. My body moved sideways, toward the loudest nearby pulse, which was now not Diana, but a man coming out of a doorway 2 buildings down. I felt the body pivot. I felt its weight shift into the pivot. And for the first time I understood something about the thing inside me. It wasn't smart. It was a junction box. It responded to input. If you gave it more input than it could sort, it would pick the closest. And closest was a function of geometry, not of what it had been doing a moment ago. Diana used that. I don't know how she knew. She didn't, not intellectually. But something in her read the pattern of me and found the exploit. She threw a second thing. Her water bottle, it turned out, she told me later. Metal, half full. Further up the block, past the man, toward the corner. It hit something and clattered. My head whipped toward it. My body followed. I heard her car door slam. I heard her tires. She was not coming after me. She was doing something else. I caught only the edge of it out of the corner of the body's attention. She was making a loop. She was driving around the block to approach from the far side. What for, I don't know. I didn't have the capacity to know. My body was already several paces into a chase that wasn't a chase so much as a drift, a wait following a sound. The man 2 buildings down saw me. He was older, heavy-set. He had a tire iron in one hand, and he was shouting at no one and everyone at once, the way men in their 60s shout when their house has just been set on fire. He saw me, and he did not run. He set his feet. He raised the iron. His pulse was a slow, thudding glow at the base of his throat. He was preparing to die with intent. I did not kill him. Something happened, and I need to tell this carefully because it's important. As my body crossed the last 10 feet between us, another body came out of a parked car behind him. Another infected. A woman, maybe 40, in scrubs, her hair still pulled back. She moved faster than my body did. She moved with a purpose my body didn't share. She went past the old man, not at him, past him, and she hit a third figure I hadn't seen. A second infected crouched by a stoop, and she pulled that second infected down to the pavement and held him there. She held him there. She didn't bite him. She didn't kill him. She held him. And while she held him, her head turned and she looked, fully, directly, into my eyes. I don't mean the body's eyes, I mean my eyes. Whoever was inside me, whoever had been driven to the back of my own skull, felt seen. I felt the recognition go through me like a needle. There was something awake in her. There was something small and very tired and very scared behind her face. And it knew that behind my face there was something small and very tired and very scared too. She held the other infected down for another second. Then she let him go, and he staggered up and drifted off down the block. And she stood and she turned, slowly, so that her body was still pointed at the old man with the tire iron. And I understood what she had done. She had bought the old man a few seconds by taking out the one who would have flanked him. Her body didn't know it had done that. She knew. Somewhere inside her. I'll come back to her. I have to come back to her, because she changed what I thought I was. My body didn't care about the old man anymore. Diana was re-entering the frame of the block from the far corner. Her car was crawling, headlights on in broad daylight, and she was hanging out the window with something in her hand. And she was calling. Calling what? Calling me. Not my name. She was clicking her tongue the way you call a dog. Click, click. Click, click. And she was slapping the side of the door, a rhythmic metallic thud that the body in me registered as the single largest pulse on the block. She was using me to clear a path. That was what I realized. Not to save me, to use me. She was leading me along the block because I, the thing that had become me, was a magnet for other infected. And by pulling me in a particular direction, she was creating a corridor the old man and the teenager and the woman in the yellow coat could run through behind me. She had figured this out in under 3 minutes. She had gotten in her car, and her mind had gone straight to, if he can't be saved, what can he be used for? I loved her for it. From inside my cage, I loved her. I had always loved her. I loved her more. My body drifted toward her car. She kept a steady distance, not too close, not too far. Every time my body slowed, she slapped the door harder. Every time my body sped up, she eased the car forward and kept the gap the same. A leash of sound. It was surgical. It was the most precise thing I have ever watched her do. And she had taught high school orchestra for 9 years, so I had watched her do a lot of precise things. Behind us, I could hear the teenager moving, the old man moving, the woman in the yellow coat. Others I didn't know. They were breaking from doorways, from cars, from the stoop where the earbuds still swung from the door handle. Diana was pulling a parade of monsters west down the avenue and a parade of survivors east, and the two parades were threading past each other through the same narrow hole in the afternoon. Halfway down the block, I saw the woman in scrubs again. She was on a rooftop across the street, 3 stories up, on the fire escape, one hand on the railing. Her body pointed down at the street, the way an infected body points at the nearest sound. But her face was pointed at me. Her eyes were fixed on me. And while I watched, she raised her free hand. She raised her free hand, and, with enormous and visible effort, she moved her fingers. 1, 2, 3. She counted them off. She was showing me. She was saying, "I can do this. I can do this much. Look." And her hand shook as she did it, and a thin, dark fluid ran from the corner of her mouth, and she was not a person anymore, and she was a person anyway, and her 3 fingers were the most human thing I had seen since Raymond the delivery man walked past me out of the lobby. Then her body, which did not know about her, turned and ran down the fire escape toward a sound I hadn't heard her hear. Her 3 fingers went back to gripping the railing. Her face went slack. She was gone, behind her own face. But she had been there, and I had seen her, and she had seen me. We are not alone inside these bodies. Some of us. Not all. I don't know the ratio. I don't know what makes some of us stay and others not. I don't know whether the ones who go are lucky or cursed. But there are more of us in here than the uninfected know. There are enough of us that we can see each other if we're looking. I carried her 3 fingers with me the rest of that day. Diana led me 5 blocks. I cannot tell you exactly where. My body's sense of the city was flat, spatial, without the texture of memory. I passed a bakery we had liked, and the body did not know it. I passed a bench where I'd once asked her a question she said yes to, and the body did not pause. The body walked. Diana led. She took me into a parking garage. It was a poured concrete stack, 3 levels, mostly empty at that hour. She drove into the lowest level and stopped the car about 15 yards inside the entrance. She cut the engine. She stepped out with her bat. She walked backward away from me, clicking her tongue, slapping the cement pillars she passed, keeping the sound fresh, keeping my body locked on her. When she reached the back of the garage, she climbed. Up a short service ladder bolted to the wall, up to a maintenance catwalk that ran along the ceiling. She was 20 feet above me when she stopped. She looked down. She put the bat across her knees and sat on the catwalk grate. And she said, for the first time since she'd pulled the car up next to that stoop, my actual name. She said it twice. "Hey," she said. "Hey, it's me. Can you hear me in there?" My body did not answer. My body paced under the catwalk like a bear under a beehive. It did not understand the ladder. Ladders were a shape its muscle memory did not know. It paced, and it wanted her, and it could not reach her. And the thing in me drummed its teeth in frustration, and from somewhere high up in the attic of my skull, I was laughing at the same time. Because she had figured it out. She had figured out how to keep me close and keep herself alive, and she had done it with a bat, a water bottle, a shoe a teenage stranger had thrown, and her own refusal to look away. "I don't know if you're still in there," she said. She wasn't crying. She'd stopped somewhere on the way here, the way she always did when she needed her hands. "I don't know if this is stupid. I'm going to talk to you anyway." My body shuffled. Teeth clicked. The body looked up at her because the body was tracking the source of a sound it wanted. The mind looked up at her for reasons the body could not name. "I went to the apartment," she said. "I saw what you did." I tried to close my eyes. My body did not oblige. "I know it wasn't you. I knew the second I saw you on the block. You looked at me like—" She paused. She exhaled. "Like you were trying to warn me. For a second. You had that look. The one you have when I'm about to walk into something. And then it went. But it was there." She had seen me. In that flinch. In that pause. A half-second of recognition when I had managed to pull back, to flicker, to be 2% of myself. She had seen it and catalogued it and driven around the block. "If any of you is still in there," she said, "I need to tell you a few things, in case this is the last time I can say them." The body stopped pacing. Not because I willed it, I don't think. Because her voice had become the single largest pulse in the room, the softest, loudest thing, and the body had, for reasons I still don't fully understand, decided to listen. "I'm going to try to find out if this is reversible," she said. "I know that sounds insane, but I'm going to try. There's a research building near the hospital. There's a guy I used to know at the CDC from when my sister was sick. I'll try. I'm going to try. And if it isn't reversible, I'm going to find you. And I'm going to do the thing I know you'd want me to do. Okay? I'm going to do it carefully. I'm going to do it fast. And I'm going to say I'm sorry before and after. Is that okay with you?" She waited. Of course, there was no answer. My body stood at the bottom of a ladder it could not climb and wanted her with a hunger that had nothing to do with her. But inside, I said yes. I said yes because I loved her, and because I knew, in the part of me that had still not given up the habit of being human, that what she was offering was the only kindness left to offer. I said yes, and I said thank you, and I said her name, over and over. Yes, 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 Diana, yes. And something in my body twitched. My jaw locked. My right hand rose halfway up, toward her, in something that was almost a wave and almost a reach. It was the clumsiest motion I had ever made, and it was mine. Hers. Mine. She saw it. "Oh God," she said. "Oh God, okay. Okay. Oh my God." She pressed the heels of her hands into her eyes. Her shoulders shook once. Then she steadied. She had the posture she had on the worst days of her life. The "I am going to do this anyway" posture. The posture that had gotten her through her sister's cancer and her father's stroke, and a dozen smaller heartbreaks I had sat beside her through. "You stay here," she said. "You stay right here. Do you understand me? You stay in this garage. I'm coming back for you. I'll make it fast. I'll make it kind. I'll make it you. I'll make it you, not that. You. I promise." I wanted to say, I couldn't promise to stay. I wanted to say the body would follow the next sound it heard, and I had no say in the matter. And if a truck backfired 3 blocks away, she would come back to an empty garage and a trail of bodies. I couldn't say any of this. I lifted my hand again, jerkily, stupidly, and I lowered it. And she took it as a promise, because she had to take it as something. She climbed down the far side of the catwalk, out a service door I couldn't see, and she was gone. The body paced. The body clicked its teeth. The body wanted. I stayed where I was in the back of the skull and tried for the first time to understand the rules of the cage I was in. Here is what I learned, alone in that garage, over what felt like hours and may have been 40 minutes. The body responded to sound first, motion second, warmth third, smell fourth. If I could prevent sound and motion, the body quieted. And in the quiet, my voice, the interior voice, the one that wasn't getting out, had slightly more weight. The body was not a single thing. It was a committee. The teeth had their own rhythm. The hands had theirs. The legs had theirs. They synchronized when something demanded synchronization, a chase, a bite. But in the lulls, they drifted independently. And in those drifts, I could, if I concentrated, influence one of them. Just one at a time, never more. The body recognized nothing. But the body had muscle memory for the things it had done many times. When a car door slammed outside the garage, my body turned toward the sound and stepped toward it. But one foot, briefly, hesitated on a spot where I had spent thousands of hours being me. The driver's seat. The spot. The angle. The body didn't know what those things were. The body remembered them the way a hand remembers a piano it no longer plays. I used this, over the next half hour, to do something the body did not want me to do. I made the body walk in a circle. Just a slow, small circle around the car Diana had left in the garage. 5 laps. 6. The body wanted to leave the garage, and I could not prevent it from wanting that. But I could, barely, occasionally, with the effort of lifting a boulder from under my own skin, nudge the right leg at the critical moment, and the body, deprived of a clear external pulse, would follow the slightly longer path. I kept it in the garage this way. I kept the thing in me in an orbit that was the closest I had ever come to loving my own flesh. I was doing this when the others came in. 3 of them, infected. They had followed the sound of the car engine from earlier, or the residue of Diana, or me. One of them was the man I had seen at the far end of the block, the one with the tire iron, except he no longer had the tire iron, and he no longer had much of one shoulder. One was a girl in a school uniform, 11 or 12, a backpack still looped over one arm. The third was a man in a chef's coat, white, stained in a way I wouldn't describe. My body, faced with other infected, did nothing. This was a rule I had not known. The body did not want other bodies. The body ignored them. They drifted into the garage and drifted around and drifted out, and my body drifted with them, and we made a slow school of wrong fish under the fluorescent lights, and none of us did anything to one another. The body registered them as the wrong kind of warmth. Not predatory, not prey. Neighbors. The girl in the uniform was looking at me. Looking, not registering. I said earlier that the woman in scrubs had looked at me with her mind. The girl was doing the same thing. Her body was drifting, her face was slack, but her eyes were on me, and they held. She walked over. My body didn't move away or toward her. The infection treated her like furniture. She got close enough that I could see the spatter of dried blood along her collarbone, not hers. Her lower lip was trembling, very slightly, and I wasn't sure whether that was her body or her. She reached out and took my hand. Her hand was cold. Cooler than mine, I think, because her infection was older. She held my hand the way a child holds a hand crossing a street. And she looked up at my face, and I looked down at hers, and neither of our bodies cared what was happening between us. For a long moment we just stood there, 2 cages holding each other's doors, and I thought, she is someone's daughter. Somewhere in this city, a woman ran toward her school. Somewhere, a man was supposed to pick her up. Somewhere, her backpack has homework in it. Somewhere, she is still 11. She squeezed my hand once. Barely. The kind of squeeze you might not notice if you weren't hoping for it. She let go. She drifted back toward the others. Her body fell into step with theirs. They drifted out of the garage. The chef and the man with the damaged shoulder did not look at me once. The girl did. At the entrance, just before the street, she turned and lifted her free hand, and her fingers twitched. And it was not a wave. It was too small to be a wave. But I will die having decided it was a wave. I don't know how long I stood in the garage after that. My body continued its orbit. I had a thought I had not had before, and I will write it down the way I thought it, because I do not want to clean it up afterward. I thought, if there are enough of us in here, awake, and if any of us can learn to do more than wave, then we are not the end of something. We are the middle of something. And the thing we are in the middle of is not a disease. It is a language we have not learned yet. I know that sounds like hope. I know hope, in my position, is obscene. But I had hours to sit in the back of my own skull with nothing to do but think, and that is what I thought. And I will not lie to you about it to sound more broken than I was. Diana came back just after dark. She came back on foot. She had changed her clothes. She was carrying a duffel bag and my baseball bat and something I recognized and wished I didn't, which was the small black case that held the kit her sister's palliative nurse had left behind after her sister died. Diana had kept that kit. I had asked her once, why? She had said, because maybe one day I'll need to be the kind of person who can do something. She had said it quietly. She had said it looking out the window. I had kissed the top of her head and not pushed. She walked into the garage slowly. She called my name from 20 feet out. She used the voice she used when she wanted to wake me up without startling me, the voice I had heard every morning for 3 years. My body turned toward her. The body wanted. The body clicked its teeth. I held on with everything I had. I walked the body in a slow circle. Not toward her, around the car. I made a show of it. I made the feet move in a way that was not a lunge, was not a charge, was not the thing a body like mine should do when the softest, loudest pulse in its range walked into its room. She stopped. She watched. She watched for maybe a whole minute, which at that point was the longest minute of my life. And then she said, very quietly, "That's you, isn't it?" The body wouldn't nod. I couldn't make it nod. I had tried, in my orbit hours, to push a nod, and nothing had happened. But I could make the body, just barely, by refusing to let the left foot drift outward on its own schedule. I could make the body do one thing that was not the body. I stopped. I made the body stand still in one place, facing her, for 3 seconds. Not from lack of prey, from me. 3 seconds. It was the greatest work of my life. Diana cried then. She set the bag down, and she put her hand over her mouth, and she cried, quietly. And she did not come closer yet, because she was smart. She was the smartest person I had ever known. "Okay," she said when she could. "Okay, baby. Okay." She sat down on the concrete. She opened the duffel bag. She began to do something I didn't understand. She was taking things out. Bottles, a small stovetop camp burner, a glass beaker. She was setting them up on the garage floor like she was about to have a picnic. "I went to the CDC building," she said, to me, to the body, to whoever. It was empty, or almost. There was a woman there, Shireen, I knew her from Ellie's, from when Ellie was sick. She's there with 2 other people and they're trying to figure this out. They've been at it since this morning. They're not government anymore, they're just 3 scared scientists in a building. They have samples, they have ideas, they don't have answers. But Shireen gave me something. She held up a small plastic vial. It was the color of weak tea. I don't know what this is, she said. I mean, I do, sort of. It's a compound they've been testing. They can't stop it, the infection. They can't undo what's happened. But they think... Her voice cracked, and she squared it again. They think this might slow it. The spread. In an infected body. It might give the person inside more room. More time. My body twitched at the vial because my body registered it as novelty. My mind went very still. I'm going to try to give you some, Diana said. I don't know if it works. I don't know if it does anything. I don't know if it makes things worse. I have to tell you that, because if any of you is in there, you deserve to know. I'm going to try, and I might be wrong, and I'm sorry in advance for being wrong. She didn't ask permission. She couldn't. She had written my permission into her hands the moment she'd chosen to come back. She waited until the body was in one of its slower orbits. She approached from behind. She did it the way you approach a skittish animal, slow and slant, and she had the bat in her left hand, ready to do something I didn't want to imagine. And she had the vial in her right. She got close. She got closer. My body heard her and turned, but slowly, and she used the slowness to hook her arm around my neck, gently, gently, more like an embrace than a chokehold, and she pressed the mouth of the vial to my lips. The body resisted. The body clamped its jaw. I pushed. I pushed with everything. I didn't push the body to drink. I pushed the body to unclamp its jaw, which is a smaller thing, which is a thing the body did ordinarily 100 times an hour. And under my pressure and Diana's calm and the softness of her voice in the body's ear, the jaw loosened a fraction, and she tipped the vial, and the liquid went in. The body swallowed, because that was what throats did. I didn't have to fight for that one. Diana stepped back fast. The bat went up. Her eyes did not leave mine. Nothing happened for a long time. Then something did. It started in the place the bite had been, the old hole in the fat of my hand between thumb and wrist. It started warm, then cold, then something I don't have a word for. A sensation that was not pain and not pleasure. A kind of clearing, as if a window I hadn't known was dirty had been wiped on the inside. My right hand flexed. I flexed it. I don't mean the body flexed, I mean I did. I told it to make a fist, and the fist happened. And I stared at my own fist like it was the hand of God. The body felt my intrusion and retaliated. My shoulders seized. My neck turned my head away from Diana sharply enough that something popped. The body lurched. Diana stumbled back, bat up. My left hand flew up on its own and grabbed the front of my own shirt. I don't know what it was trying to do. It was as if the infection had recognized a mutiny and was trying to drown it in noise. "Baby," Diana said. "Baby, stay with me. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me." I stayed. I stayed. I put everything I had into staying. I let the body lurch. I let the body click. I let the body make its awful flat groan. I didn't fight for the legs. I didn't fight for the voice. I didn't fight for anything big. I fought for the one thing I had, which was the fist. I kept the fist. I kept it for maybe 20 seconds. And then, because I was exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with muscle, I let it go. And the hand went slack, and the body kept lurching. And Diana, who had understood exactly what I'd been doing, sobbed once, loud, a sound I had never heard her make before. "That was you," she said. "That was you." I made the fist again. I don't know how much time passed. I know the garage lights flickered once. I know at some point sirens went past on the street outside, far and faded. I know Diana sat down against the wall with the bat across her knees. And I know she kept talking to me. And I know that sometimes I could make the body face her, and sometimes I couldn't. And every time I managed it, she noticed. She talked about our first apartment, the one above the Korean deli. She talked about the cat we'd almost adopted and decided against because we were broke. She talked about the trip to Maine, where I had gotten violently sick from clam chowder, and she had held my hair back at 2 a.m. in a motel bathroom, and I had said, through the vomit, "Please marry me." And she had said, "Not like this, you idiot." And then, a month later, "Not like that either." But yes, she talked, and the body in me, which did not know Maine, which did not know clams, which did not know apartments, remained in its orbit, and sometimes I could nudge it, and sometimes I couldn't, and Diana kept every nudge like a promise. The compound didn't fix me. I need you to understand that. It didn't pull the infection out of me and leave me whole. It didn't hand me back my body. What it did was widen a crack. It made the door between me and the body, which had been hairline, wide enough that I could put a finger through. And a finger was not a key, but a finger was something. Over the hours, I'll call them hours because I don't know what else to call them, I learned what a finger could do. I could make the body stop walking for up to 5 seconds. I could make the right hand open and close. I could, with absolute concentration, make the body breathe out rather than in on a given cycle, which is a smaller thing than you think, and a larger thing than you'd ever imagine until you can't do it. I could not make the body look where I wanted it to look. I could not make the body make a word. I could not make the body kneel or sit or lie down. Those were too complex. Those were symphonies, and I had only learned to hum. Once, as a test, Diana walked past me at 10 feet, slowly, with my baseball bat along her leg. Just walked. My body's head tracked her with the interest it had in any moving pulse. My body's feet twitched to follow. And I leaned, in my cage, on the left foot, hard. And I held it. And the body took 2 steps the wrong way before the right foot corrected. She stopped. She watched me. "You can do 2 steps," she said. "Baby, 2 is a lot. 2 is huge." She was lying to me the way people lie to sick children. I knew it. I loved her for it. The next thing she said broke me in a way the infection had not. "I can't stay here," she said. "I'm so sorry. I can't stay here with you. Shireen, they need me to come back. If this compound does anything at all, they need to know. They need to see you. I have to go tell them. I'll come back. I swear to you, I'll come back with more, with better. I'll come back." I made the body stop. I made it stop for 3 seconds, 4, 5. I made the face turn toward her. I could not make the face smile. I could not make the eyes soften. I could make the face point. That was all. She understood. "I know," she said. "I know you know. I'll be fast. I'll be so fast you won't even—" She stopped. She started again. "I'll be fast." She stood up. She shouldered the duffel. She walked around the car to the service door she'd come in through. At the door, she turned. "If anything happens," she said, "if for any reason if the compound, if any of this—" She gave up on the sentence. She said instead, I love you. I have loved you since the day you got sick in Maine. Possibly before. Definitely since. I don't have the voice to say I love you back. I don't have the eyes. I don't have the mouth. What I have is a fist, and I make it. And I hold it up, trembling, at the end of an arm that is not mine. And she sees it, and she puts her hand over her mouth, and she goes. She said she'd be back. Sometimes people who say that come back. Sometimes they don't. I want to tell you she came back. I want to tell you it was quick. I want to tell you the compound worked, and the scientists cracked it, and a cure rolled out across the country, and one morning I woke up in a hospital bed with her holding my hand. None of that is what happened. What happened is that Diana walked out of the garage, and I remained in the garage, and my body continued to orbit the car she'd left behind, and I continued to push my finger through the crack in the door of the cage, and the hours stacked up on each other the way hours do when no one is counting them. She did come back. Once. 2 days later. I know it was 2 days because the light in the garage had cycled twice through the small skylights in the ceiling. She came back with a bigger bag and another vial, a different color, cloudier. She came back and she looked thinner. Her eye was bruised. She didn't explain the bruise. She said, "Open," and I pushed my jaw loose for her, and she tipped the new vial in, and she watched, and she waited. The new one did something the first one hadn't. It gave me, for about 3 minutes, a tongue. I couldn't say words. The body's vocal apparatus had changed in ways that made consonants impossible. What I could do was sound. I could make a sound that was not the flat groan. I could push air through a throat that was, for 3 minutes, mine enough to shape it. I said her name. I don't know if it came out as her name. I suspect, to anyone else, it came out as a moan, lower and softer than the body's usual sound, a note with a shape to it. But Diana, who had once taught 7th graders to play Bach on instruments they were too small to hold, Diana heard it. She heard the shape and the sound. She put both her hands over her face, and she sat down on the concrete, and she cried in a way that had the entire history of our life together in it. I tried again. I said what I could of, "I love you." I said what I could of, "Thank you." I said what I could of, "Please." And when I said please, the body, which did not understand please, pushed back, and my throat closed, and the 3 minutes were over, and I was a groan again. She stayed another hour. She didn't give me any more of the new one. She didn't have much. I think she was saving it. I think she wanted to keep a little, in case there was a moment when she needed me to be able to say yes or no. And she knew that moment might be coming, and she didn't want to waste the tongue on a conversation she'd already had. When she left, she didn't promise. That was the worst part, and also the kindest. She didn't say, "I'll be back." She said, "If I can, I will." She said, "If I can't, I hope you know why not." And she said, "I will do the thing I promised. I will find you. I will be careful. I will be kind. I will be me, not that. You, not that. You, not that." It was the sentence she had built for us, and it was the only rope we had. She didn't come back after that. I don't know what happened to her. That is the hardest sentence in this story. I don't know what happened to her. I would like to tell you she made it. I would like to tell you she got to the CDC building, and Sharon and the others made something real out of the sample my body had given them, and the compound became a treatment, and the treatment became a cure. And somewhere out there, right now, there are hundreds of thousands of people who have been given back their hands the way she gave me back my fist. I want to tell you that. What I can tell you is what I did. When she didn't come back, and it became clear she wasn't going to, I left the garage. I left on purpose. I chose a direction. I don't know what time of day it was, or how many days it had been. I know I chose. That is, I pushed, and the body went. And when the body drifted toward east, I pushed it west, and it followed me because I had been practicing. Because the crack was wider than the crack I had started with. Because grief had given me a kind of leverage I had never had in my original life. I went looking for her. I walked for what I think were weeks. The body did not tire the way a living body tires. It continued. It ate. I will not describe the eating. I have described enough. And it walked. And in the spaces between, I pushed it in one direction, and that direction was the last one she had walked in. The direction of the CDC building she had named. I saw other infected. Many of them. I saw 2 of them looking at me with their eyes open, and one of them, an old man, held up his hand in the counting way the woman in scrubs had done, and I held mine up back. And we were a nation of 3 across a broken avenue. For a full second, and then our bodies moved us in different directions. I found the building. It had been burned. Not all of it. One whole side of it was blackened, and the other side was intact. There were dead infected in the courtyard. There were dead humans among them. I couldn't tell, looking at them, which had died first, and I wasn't in a position to find out. I circled the building. I pushed the body through the back service entrance, which had been forced open at some point by something stronger than me. She was not there. I need to say that clearly. I went through every floor I could access. I pushed the body into rooms and hallways and storerooms for hours, days, I don't know. I was looking for one specific body. I was looking for Diana. I did not find her. I found Shireen. Or I found what I think was Shireen, based on a name badge that was still attached to what was left of a lanyard on a body on the 3rd floor. She had not been infected. She had been killed by something with hands like mine. I stood over her, and I pushed the body to kneel, and it did not kneel. And I stayed there standing for a long time, and it was the closest I could come to a moment of silence. I did not find Diana. I did not find anyone else from her group. The lab itself had been wrecked, deliberately, by someone who understood what they were wrecking. There were no vials. There were no notes. There were only cabinets with the doors hanging off them and a sink full of broken glass. I left the building. I stood in the courtyard. I stood there long enough that other infected drifted past and ignored me, and a cat watched me from a windowsill, and the sun moved. This is where I have to decide what to tell you. Because I have been writing this, writing in whatever sense I can write, which is pushing words through the narrow door between me and anyone who might ever read them, as if it has an ending. It doesn't. Not yet. What it has is this. I am still walking. The body is still walking. I am still inside it. The compound she gave me, the first one, the second one, wore off mostly. The crack narrowed. I have less finger through the door now than I had in the garage. I can stop the body for maybe 2 seconds on a good day. I cannot make a fist anymore without a prolonged effort that leaves me, afterward, dimmer in ways I don't like. I am losing things. I lost the kettle first, the memory of it, the blue halo. It went one afternoon while I was walking through a neighborhood I didn't recognize, and I realized, when I tried to check on it, that the kettle was gone from the place in my head where I had kept it. Not forgotten the way people forget things. Subtracted, as if the shelf had been removed. I lost Raymond the delivery man a week later. His name tag, the cement-colored eyes, gone. I lost the cat on the windowsill outside the CDC. I have been losing the specifics of Maine, slowly, around the edges. The motel. The clam chowder. I still have Diana in the bathroom with me, holding my hair. I am guarding that one. I have chosen it as the one I will not let go of. I don't know if I get to choose in the end. I think the infection is like a slow tide, and I can hold my favorite rock up over my head for a while, but the water is higher every day, and my arms are tired, and I will eventually put the rock down. I have tried to find other conscious infected, on purpose. I have succeeded 3 times. We cannot speak. We cannot coordinate. What we can do is walk near each other for a while, and hold up fingers, and see each other. There is a child among them. Not the one from the garage, a different child. A boy, maybe 7. He is very awake. I do not know how a 7-year-old stays awake inside a body like this, and I do not want to know. I walk near him when I can. I count my fingers for him. He counts his for me. I think sometimes that the cure Diana was chasing is not coming. That she did not find it. That there is no one left to find it. That the world above my skull is done, and it will do its slow collapse, and the cities will grow over, and the bodies I am one of will gradually wear out, and the last conscious infected will be alone in a field somewhere, with nothing to count to, and then they will forget the number, and then there will be nothing. I think this. And then I think, but she came back. Twice. She did not have to come back the second time, and she did. And if a person like her lived, then maybe a dozen more like her lived. And maybe one of them is in a basement somewhere with a beaker and a burner and a sample and the patience to keep trying. Maybe the compound was never meant for me. Maybe it was meant for someone who got it later, and it worked. And that someone is out there right now, and they are walking through the same streets I'm walking through. And they are human, and they are looking, and I will not recognize them when they find me. I have to tell you one more thing, then I will stop. Last week, I say last week, I mean the last cycle of the sun, I was able to count to 7. I was walking east along an avenue that had been cleared of cars, and I saw a woman standing in an upstairs window of a brownstone. She was not infected. She had a cup of something in her hand. She was watching the street. She was alive. She saw me. She did not duck away. She watched me. I stopped. I stopped the body, and I pushed, and I pushed, and for 5 seconds, 5 whole seconds, more than I had been able to do in weeks, I made the body stand still on the sidewalk, and I made the face point up at her, and I made the right hand lift, and I made the fingers count. 1, 2, 3. I counted to 3 for her. Her hand went to her mouth. She put the cup down. She stared. I turned the body, and I walked it away, because the infection had noticed what I was doing and was beginning to rebel. And I wanted her to keep watching me walk away rather than see the body take me back. She called after me, out the window. She said, "I see you." That was all. I see you. 3 words. She said them loud enough that I heard them with the body's ears, and I heard them with mine. And the body had no response to them, and I had every response to them, and I walked on, and I am still walking. I don't know if she was Diana. The distance was too far. The window was too high. My eyes, the body's eyes, are not what they were. She had the right shape, or a shape I wanted to be the right shape. Or maybe she had no particular shape, and I needed her to have one. I will not know. I will never know. My body walked on, and I pushed my finger through the crack and held it there. And I held the image of the woman in the window in the same place I keep Diana in the main motel bathroom. And now they are in the same room in my head. And maybe that means they are the same woman. And maybe that just means my head is smaller than it used to be. You, not that. She said that to me. Do you remember? From the garage. You, not that. It was our rope. And she let go of it when she had to, the way a person lets go of a rope when the cliff she's tethered to is crumbling and she doesn't want to take you down with her. And I understand. I have understood for a long time now. I hold my end anyway. I hold it as long as I can. If you are reading this, and I don't know how you would be reading this because I can't write, I can only push. But if you are, if some part of what I am has leaked out of me into the world through some channel I don't understand, then I want you to know the one piece of this that I would cut out of my chest and hand to you if I had a chest and a hand to do it with. We are in here. Some of us. More of us than you think. If you see one of us stop, for no reason, in the middle of a street and lift a hand and count fingers, 1, 2, 3, do not run. Do not raise whatever you're holding. Stop if you can do it safely. Count back. Count slowly. Count so we can see. We will not be able to stay long. The body will take us back in a few seconds. A few seconds is all most of us will ever manage. But in those seconds, you will be the first person in weeks or months or years to have treated us like a person. And we will carry those seconds with us for as long as we have left in here. And we will hold them up over our heads against the tide, the way Diana held the compound up to my lips in a parking garage on the worst day of her life. And also, I have to think, the best one of mine. Because that was the day I learned what I was still for. Not survival. There is no survival for me. I am past that. Witness. Witness is what I am for. As long as I have a finger through this crack, I will hold it up, and I will count, and I will see, and I will be seen. And if there is a God who made me, and made the infection, and made Diana, and made the garage, and made the compound, and made the crack wide enough for my finger, and for 3 seconds of pointed face, and 5 seconds of raised hand, then that God can reckon with the accounting later. In the meantime, I walk. I walk. And I look for a woman in a window who said, "I see you." I walk, and I count fingers for a boy who counts them back. I walk, and I guard a motel bathroom in Maine, and a blue halo of gas, and the exact pitch of 2 soft syllables Diana said on a sidewalk. Oh no. And the feel of her arm around my neck when she tipped the vial to my mouth. And the promise of you, not that, which is a promise I am keeping. Still, today, right now, as I push these last few words through the last narrow space between me and whoever you are. You, not that. Me. Still.